Hello everybody, welcome to Claire's own channel. Today we're going to do a little book haul.
Yeah.
I am currently visiting Claire from abroad. I'm Canadian and here I am in the UK visiting my old pal. And today we thought it would be fun to go to a bookshop and then go to a park and do a walk, and then we went to the bookshop and we were there for probably 2.5 hours and we just came home.
Yeah.
So.
And it was just like my local Waterstones. So it wasn't as if it was just, I mean, it's a lovely one, don't get me wrong, but we were there for, I think, almost an obscene length of time. And I think the staff were a little bit worried that we had set up camp, because like literally on the floor with all my books.
I think that they were okay with it because at the end we both bought so many books.
Yes.
So I think they were like, it's okay that these young women just hung out here for forever because they did buy the equivalent amount of books appropriate.
They probably haven't, in that Waterstones, had people who've actually sat down like I did with like 7 different options. I mean, I was quite stressed at various points, so they were probably like, well, she better stay here because this is a safe place. We have a phone, just in case.
We should start with the book we both got.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's fun. That's cute.
You remember when in all the thumbnails previously, like back in, we always like held them like that?
Yeah.
So like no one, wait, do people still do that?
Otherwise, how would you get them to click?
I evidently don't if you go to my analytics.
We both got one book.
Yes.
Together, which I think is really cute. So
it's such an odd choice for us both to pick, though. Do you know what I think?
It really is. If we were going for like clickability, this isn't. The book is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Is that how you pronounce it? Follett? Follett?
Follett.
Okay, here's the sitch on this book. Recently on.
Can I just say that everyone who's ever watched my channel is so not used to this type of format.
Yeah, they're stressed out by my accent and by my hoodie.
I know, very different life.
The collar.
I have like lip tissues like loads.
I watched, you know Eric on booktube?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Eric Anderson?
Yeah.
Yeah. He talked about a book called Cathedral.
Right.
By Ben something or other. That's the one. Ben Hopkins, yeah, nailed it. And everyone in the comments was like, oh wow, that book sounds just like Pillars of the Earth. And I definitely heard of this book before, but it was because of that video that I was like, oh, this sounds so cool. So I looked it up and everything. And this is the story of a cathedral being built in the 1200s?
Yeah, 12th century. So 1100s.
1100s.
Yeah, 12th century.
12th century. God, I always hated that.
Henry the First.
Right.
Kind of time period.
So I thought it sounded amazing then. And then I saw how big it was. And I got scared.
I love a chunky book.
I never read long books.
And I often read long books. That's kind of my... Even though I always... my favourite books tend to be... It's like Miss Dalloway, really short. Yes. But then like Jonathan Strange was no, and the Luminaries now like chunky. Yeah. And even like Wolf Hall, like for me this is kind of, you know, like a Hilary Mantel size novel. Yes. I'm kind of really prepared for a history book or a historical fiction to be this long. If it was like a contemporary novel, I'd be like, no. But for some reason, historical fiction, because that's for me, is like I'm there. I want to experience it and be involved. Does it smell good?
It smells like a British book.
Interesting.
British bookstores smell different than Canadian American. I've really noticed. Can you tell the difference?
Oh, the smell of superiority.
You wouldn't. We were both excited about this one, but mainly you were at the beginning. Yeah. But then you were walking around with it so much that I was like, you know, I do love this edition of it. I'll see what the Canadian edition is, because honestly, buying this here is really dumb. Yeah. This is so big. This is going to take up so much room in my suitcase. That's ridiculous.
You have a tiny suitcase.
Tiny suitcase. Only have a carry-on. A backpack and a carry-on. So I was like, no, that would be really dumb. But then I looked it up and I don't like the Canadian edition. So I bought it. I don't know. It might have been a mistake. No, it wasn't a mistake. I have no regrets. It's beautiful.
So I wanted to read this for a long time, mainly because I've seen loads of reviews about it, but because, you know, I love Hilary Mantel, I love all those classic, big historical fiction novels. Whenever you talk about any historical fiction, it's always like, go and read The Pillars of the Earth. Yes. It's like a foundational text,
yeah.
And it's one of those things that actually because I haven't read, I feel like there's a gap in my knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm also really interested in this kind of era of history and just history in general. And at the moment I'm kind of, you know, I've read a lot of Tudor stuff and I'm trying to kind of move backwards a little bit and just read, you know, eras that I haven't read before and then research it really and just be a geek about it. So this is a big chunky book that I know I'll read, but then also kind of, I think you'll next see me and I'll be obsessed with like 12th century history.
That's great.
Just feel it,
I think that's good.
Yeah.
I mainly just love that it's about one cathedral, like all of these different characters surrounding this one structure. I think is really interesting setup.
Yeah.
So I challenge us to read this by the time we meet next.
To be fair,
that could be 2 years.
Last time Ariel came, it was March 2020, before we knew about lockdown, before we knew about anything.
It was the first week of March.
Yeah, and you nearly didn't get home. You nearly had to live.
There was a lot of drama.
Yeah, you nearly had to live with me, and that was mainly my drama. But I feel like then we've had a big gap. Hopefully it won't be as long next time because
hopefully, yeah,
you know, things will be continuing positively, or negatively in terms of a COVID test, but positively in terms of overall life. But one thing I should say actually about this that actually really made me actually like not just kind of think about buying it but actually buy it is actually the first line, which is the small boys came early to the hanging. And I'm sorry, but that is like, that's a brilliant first line.
That's God tier.
I also realised if you can hear clicking in the background or typing, Ben is actually still at work. Ben, do you want to say hi? Oh.
He's got his headphones on.
Ben is watching a video about Warhammer right now, so he'll be working and also thinking about his tiny little men.
We have more books to get through.
We do, so that's the first one. Do you want to do one of you?
Sure, okay, next
Because I can't remember what you bought.
I got this one because of you, actually. You pointed it out as a book that you'd been interested in before.
Yeah.
How did you say this is pronounced?
Stasiland?
Stasiland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stories from Behind the Berlin Wall by Anna Funder. This is interesting because I just bought a book called The Union of Synchronized Swimming.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that.
Which is a story of a synchronized swimming team on the other side of the Berlin Wall who's going to try and use the Olympics to escape. But also just about like coming of age and stuff, and I'm so excited to read it. But one of the things that I realized I was excited about for this novel, because it's like a tiny novella actually, is just learning about that period of history that I actually realize I don't know that much about. I kind of just know the narrative of the wall came down, and I'm like, okay, but what was happening when the wall was up? I don't really know. Obviously not very close proximity to Canada, so I think it wasn't even really mentioned in history class in high school or whatever.
Especially because you're not American, you probably would have heard of very, you know.
Exactly. It was not something that really came up very much. So this sounded really interesting, and once you pointed it out, I also absolutely love this cover. I think it's a really beautiful cover and spine. Well done, well done.
But it's also an era that I know I've more recently wanted to learn more about. But I'm kind of quite interested in that period. But I feel like I've not kind of read enough, and I kind of always want to like try and educate myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise you just stick to these really narrow binary narratives around history like this.
God, it's so true. It's so true. And it makes sense because I think when you're first taught those things or you're first exposed to them, the easiest way to explain it to like a 14-year-old is like, these were the good people, these were the bad people. And then when you actually are an adult and you start looking into it, you're like, it was complicated. But the next book you got is cool because it's attached to the first book we talked about.
So this one actually is, neither of these books I thought I was actually going to go in and buy today. And this one I actually never thought about buying. And it is The White Ship by Charles Spencer, who obviously is a historian and you know, really famous kind of history writer, but is also the brother to Princess Diana. And I love Diana, so I'm just giving money to the Spencer family. I'm a really bad socialist, evidently. It says actually, which I think is a really great line in terms of like marketing, is a medieval Titanic. I love the film Titanic. So I'm hoping for a steamy car seat in this. The reason I actually kind of picked this up is because in The Pillars of Earth, you go to the epigraph, it actually mentions the white ship.
Which is fantastic, because...
Yeah, which is what made me think of it.
Well, you had genuinely said, what I really like doing is getting a fiction book about a period, but then getting a non-fiction book to balance them out. Yeah. And then literally the first line of the epigraph is, on the night of 25th November 1120, the white ship set out for England, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then it says, like, this is the period that came after. And then you found a book called The White Ship, so it worked out perfectly.
And this has only just come out in paperback, so it's kind of a really new release. So I've seen lots about it. But The White Ship basically kind of put England into anarchy based off kind of the Henry I heir was on there, and then that kind of led to not having heir apparent with Matilda and that kind of history, and just changed the course really completely from that one kind of single moment. Oh, it wasn't just one single moment,
but building up to it.
It's obviously setting up what England is like after this, after this kind of moment in history, which is something that I think, if I know this before, I'll kind of get a sense of what England is like at the time, and knowing what kind of politically or kind of religious stuff as well. Yeah, I always kind of want to be able to have a full sense of, even if it's just like the overview of English history. Yeah. I've been in so many conversations when like Henry I's come up or Matilda's come up, and I just don't know it.
Right.
But with this, what I kind of was interested about it is it's not just about the ship. At first I kind of thought it was like military history or like naval history, but it's actually like an overview really of
the context, the period.
Yeah, all before and kind of the aftermath, which I think will then fit in really well with Pillars of the Earth.
That's a perfect linking.
Yeah, so I think
that's really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And also it wasn't a book I ever expected to buy or even to read.
Yeah.
And so I sometimes like when you do go in and you pick out the unexpected. But I really love history books, so I'm sure I'll enjoy it.
Okay, so I'll go here next. I got Starling Days by...
I love this cover.
I know. Rowan, Hisayo, Buchanan.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful book. Cover your face so that it focuses on it. It's a really beautiful book. I love the cover of it, and that's definitely what pulled me in. There's no shame in that. That's the point of a book cover. I have not heard of this author, have not heard of this book, and I don't know anyone who's ever read it. So going in blind here.
Yeah.
And obviously won't be able to tell you much because this is a book haul. This is before I read it. I don't exactly know what it's about other than the blurb, and I read the first few pages. So
what's the first line? You need the first line.
God, I love a first line. The first line is, she wasn't expecting the bridge to shudder.
That's quite a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's not quite as good as Small Boys Hanging.
No. So this book is about a girl, or a woman, I guess. I always say girl for everything, but I guess technically
that's fine.
Woman. Mina, who is standing on a bridge, and clearly she's having a bit of a moment, a mental health moment, where she's contemplating life. And from what I've read, like the first 3 pages, I can't tell if she's actually thinking about jumping or not. But what happens is a police officer thinks she is going to jump. Right. And so kind of a moment that maybe wasn't actually going to be very dramatic becomes quite dramatic. Yeah. And she's taken, I think, to a hospital actually. And then the other character is her husband. They seem to be like in their late 20s, so kind of a younger married couple dealing with an interesting transitionary moment in life. My favorite type of contemporary book. Like, this is probably the majority of my reading.
I was gonna say,
it's just books about people in their 20s, and like slice of life, right? That's the term, slice of life.
Do you like Sally Rooney?
This sounded really interesting. I liked the setup, that moment of like, whoa, everything's about to change. But then also it says that they're an American couple, and they end up moving to London.
Oh,
and then maybe having to move back. So there's like some back and forth, which I really relate to. So I think that'll be great. I love an international book.
And there's also Harmless Like You was really like acclaimed.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's why I kind of remember her name from.
She looks cool.
Yeah, she does.
So, okay. You got one more?
I just realised all of my books by men. I've never done that. Honestly, I literally very rarely read men, and suddenly I've gone, you know what's called white men? Because they obviously don't get enough representation. Here's a little part of them. So I read Ian Mortimer's Guide to Restoration Britain and loved it. And it's the type of social history that I love, wherein you are literally there. The way he kind of describes it, he begins it with very much like feel, I think that's the cat, or Ben, who knows. He kind of always places you in a room and then says, this is your view, this is what your floor feels like, this is what the curtains.
Yeah, it even says that at the back. It was like, imagine you travel back to the 14th century. What would you see, hear, smell? Where would you stay? What are you gonna eat? So he's like trying to really drop you in there. Also, zoom in on this cover, because this is just so, can cover our faces. Camera technology has gone too far.
Just thinking about this, actually, this also kind of links back to Pillars of Earth, even though it's a different time period.
Yeah.
But the very first, like, the first chapter, I guess, the landscape begins with, "It is the cathedral you will see first." So he's dominating all the landscapes.
Of course, yeah.
It's exactly what I like, because you get all of that history, as well as kind of actually, you know, being able to pick out the parts that, you know, you're then interested in. And it's kind of it's almost like a beginner entry book. Yes. Then you get the landscape, you understand where you are. And then it's the same with restoration. Obviously that was like almost my specialist at university. But then after reading that, I then went and read lots of different books about it.
Yeah, and it's a good way to open the gates.
Exactly.
So that you can see what the options are.
Yeah, and sometimes history, and I know a lot popular history is a lot more kind of accessible now. But you know, some history books, especially about the medieval period, are dry, and a lot of them are really academic and not accessible. But this is the perfect example of actually taking history and making it alive, you know, letting it breathe. But this book was also a book I wanted to buy for a really, really long time, and I sat on the bookshop floor with like 4 of the books for a good hour. Yeah, a while was a nice way of saying. And then I decided to put it back, and I think Ariel was a little bit done by the fact that I literally had stared at it for about 45 minutes going, "Oh, put it back. Oh, I'm gonna put it back." And then I put it back, and then Ariel just kind of...
I just took it off the shelf and bought it for you.
Yeah, in which I told you to get lost. And then Ariel wrote a little note to me.
Claire,
confessing her
I love you so much. Ariel, 2021. If my pen was here, I feel like I need to add PS, get lost. I wanted to buy it for you because I've done that a million times where I'm like, no, I should only buy 2 books today. And then I put one back and I'm like, I wish I'd gotten that. And then I was like, I'll just grab it for her.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's my gift to you.
There is a book today that is missing that I have actually regretted. I don't know why I put it back, but I had to be sensible. There had to be a cut-off point.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we had a really nice day, but I was gonna be impulsive. And I feel like these 2 books, not this one, but these 2 are kind of unexpected, and sometimes actually when you're shopping with friends, it's nice not always to get the books that you've just been planning on buying yourself, or
that you go and visit every time.
Exactly, which is kind of what I've been doing. So these are kind of, you know, I'll always remember. Also, we bought the same book together, and we'll kind of have the experience of just never reading it, but we'll know it's there. Yeah. We can share that guilt. I wanted to buy Antonia Fraser's biography of Mary Queen of Scots, which is like her classic. I think it was actually potentially even her debut biography.
Wow.
It's really kind of big in any kind of history biography. It's like, again, a key text.
And also it has the new 50th anniversary edition.
Stunning,
that's really pretty. Cover. Very pretty.
And it's not like I can't buy it again, but I kind of felt like even though medieval is after the first book, I felt like it was still kind of linked. Yeah. But I do regret not getting it.
It's okay.
I really do.
It's still there.
But I have read parts of it.
Right. You said you had it as a kid.
Yeah, and then I lent it to a friend who may or may not be watching this video, and she may have still got it. But I will go and get it. But also, Ariel kindly let me steal all the stamps for Waterstones, which means I now have a £10 card.
Yes. So actually,
I can get it free. It's another gift.
Another gift.
It is.
That's pretty cool.
Can you imagine it will be like $12.99? I'll have to fucking pay like $2.99.
The last book I got is The Last Children of Tokyo. How fitting, by Yoko Tawada. This is a book I specifically remember seeing. This is also a Granta book. That's interesting. I got a Granta book a couple days ago as well. This is a book I very distinctly remember seeing in foils.
Right.
Like 4 years ago or something. They had a big display of it. And it was one of those books that you just pick up but don't buy, like 5 times over the last few years. I've been like, I don't know, so close every time. And who knows why this was the time that I finally bought it. But this kind of seems like speculative fiction.
Right. I actually don't know anything about
this book.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. Translated from the Japanese by Margaret Mitsutani.
Yeah.
I have, in the last probably 2 to 3 years, been really enjoying Japanese translated fiction. They are writing such interesting stuff over there right now, and it's doing something so distinctly different than what's being published in the West. So I'm really enjoying Japanese, but also Korean translated stuff. We have a character who is over 100 years old, and they like don't think that they're gonna die anytime soon. It seems like it's sort of climate fiction-y, where it's sort of like this older generation is quite old, but all of the children that are being born after some catastrophe that happened are being born really weak and frail, and they don't live very long, and so that's why it's the last children of Tokyo. Like maybe more children aren't going to be born, or they can't survive long enough.
It feels really.
So it feels like climate fiction-y, where it's like we've messed up the earth so much that children can't be born anymore. But it just says, as hopes for Japan's youngest generations fade, there's a secretive organization that might have some cure. So I don't know. It's short. It's more of a novella than anything. It's 135 pages. And I've read a few things like this that are this like interesting surrealist Japanese take on some idea. And I always enjoy them.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be the moment.
What is the best like recent kind of in translation book you've read?
Great question.
Because let's be honest, they don't get that stuff here. They don't get the record with me and my old white men
on this channel. One that I really enjoyed was Kim Ji-young, 1984?
Yes.
Is that the name of it? 1984? I forget. So the way that it's written is so that it feels... 1982.
Yeah.
Kim Ji-young, born 1982.
Yes, I recognized the cover.
It was so excellent. And it's a South Korean translated book. And it's about, like, it's supposed to be about the most ordinary person, woman imaginable in South Korea. So the main character is almost boring, like, she's almost boring, but intentionally. She's supposed to just represent the everyday woman. And it's fascinating because it is fiction, but it has footnotes. English, but like like footnotes that are kind of like showing studies about what is going on. So it'll be like, you know, she has a sister.
And are they fictional studies or are they real studies?
They're real studies.
Interesting.
It's such an interesting blend of fiction and non-fiction. Clearly the author is trying to show like, this is a fictional character, but this is what real women are going through. And so it'll be like, she isn't getting paid enough at work. And then it will link to a study that shows that women in South Korea get paid so much less than their male counterparts or whatever. So it was a really cool blend of fiction and non-fiction. That's a top recommend.
Yeah.
It was cool. Easy to read too. It was very short. But that's it, man.
Yeah,
we did it.
We're done.
That was our haul.
I will say that this is completely representative of who we are as people.
Well, yeah, this was a real departure for me.
Yeah.
Usually this is more what I'm trying to get. But
I was really surprised that you would want to even consider reading this.
You know what? Well, I really do enjoy like medieval movies. Like A Knight's Tale.
Oh, right,
one of my favorites. So I like stuff in that period, and I don't remember the last time I read something in that period. So
how often do you read historical novels, actually? Probably not, like...
Never.
No.
But that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
I
feel like I do enough of that for the both of us. I've got that side covered.
Yeah, no, I don't remember the last time. I did a lot when I was a teen.
Yeah.
I remember reading a good chunk of historical fiction and really liking it, but just as an adult, I haven't been doing it as much. There you go. A great pile. Thanks for having me on your channel.
Yeah, you're welcome. Second time. How long have we been friends? Since like 20... I had a pixie cut, so 20...
Wow. 2015.
Yeah, 2015. So it's been a long time, actually.
We're old now.
Yeah. I know.
We used to be young and full of life. Now we've been grinded down. All right.
That was a lovely end, wasn't it?
Wait, we have to do the thumbnail.
Oh, shitting hell.